Okay, let's talk just a little bit about base running. I don't want to get too much into base running. Base running is something that you could talk about a ton, but at the fundamental kind of foundational level, there's a couple principles we got to keep in mind. A couple do's and don'ts around base running. Let's not run slow. Let's encourage our kids to always run as fast as they can. It's a big part of base running. Running as fast as you can. The faster they run, the less chances the less chance it's going to be that they're going to get hit by a baseball, especially running to first. So let's encourage our kids to run as fast as they can. Uh, we can't ignore our base coach. We got to have our players looking and picking up their base coach, but at the same time, we can't pay too much attention to our base coach. We want our kids to be active in their minds when they're running the bases. They got to go out there and they got to think. They got to take some risks. They got to take a chance. So as much as we don't want them to ignore our base coach, we also don't want them to pay too much attention to our base coach and rely only on the base coach. They got to think a little bit about what they got to do. They got to make their own moves. They got to take a risk every once in a while. They can't be afraid of drawing a throw. Having a throw drawn to them is part of baseball. It's fun. It puts them in a position where we put a little pressure on the defense. So don't encourage them to be too safe. Take a little bit of a risk, push it a little bit, see what you can get out of it. We don't want our players leaping to a base. Don't ever have them leap at a base, run through the base, or stopping on the base. Leaping to a base can put them in a position where they can hurt themselves. We don't want them to stay on the predetermined baseline unless the situation warrants it. There are a lot of situations that do warrant it, but there are also a lot of situations that warrant them getting off the baseline and creating their own baseline. So don't encourage them to stay on the baseline. Encourage them to read the situation and adjust accordingly. And this is a big don't. A lot of kids are going to do this, especially at the rookie ball and mosquito level. Don't encourage your kids to go into a rundown. For sure, the quicker and the smarter kids, understanding which player's on which position on the field, they can get into a rundown and sneak some extra bases and turn a single into a home run. But don't encourage them to do that. It's bad baseball. It doesn't teach them the right way to go about running the bases. It turns into a snowball fight, and sometimes, yeah, for the parent, it's kind of wild and fun to watch, but don't encourage them to, on purpose, get into a rundown. So if we're talking about some of the do's, do encourage them to always know the outs. And you as a base coach, you should always be telling them how many outs. None out. Everybody, 1 out. Everybody, 2 outs. So have them know the outs as much as possible. Have them assess the play and the situation prior to, so they have a little bit of knowledge going into the situation when the ball gets hit and they have an idea of what they should or shouldn't be doing. At first base, when they're running to first base, have them land on the front edge of the base, half of their foot on the base, half of their foot on the ground. We don't want them landing on the top of the base. We definitely don't want them landing on the back of the base. When they're running the bases and rounding the bases and taking the next base, it's always the inside closest corner that we want them to run on. Some kids tend to stand on the top of the base. Every once in a while, you even see a kid land on the outside or back corners of the base. Outside, back corner of the base, they're going to have to run a bigger circle. Inside, closest corner of the base, if they can step on that corner, they're going to run the smallest circle, and it's going to allow them to get there just a little bit quicker. It's going to allow them to push off of the base and turn that corner hard and make their next move. So inside corner of the base, closest inside corner is what we want them to hit. We want them to be decisive. We want them to watch the play as it unfolds ahead of them, or trust the coach and the play is unfolding behind them. We want them to be decisive and make a move, even if they start going and thinking, oh no, man, I think I'm going to get nailed on this one. Be decisive, make a decision. Baseball's fun. Take a chance. Maybe they throw you out, maybe they don't, but be decisive when you're out there. And if you decide to go, just go, even if you do get nailed at that next base. It's just part of the game. And if we're on base, on each pitch, we want to get a secondary. We want to get a secondary. A lot of kids, even at the mosquito level, we want to get a secondary. A rookie ball, we're not allowed to leave the base until the ball gets hit. But at mosquito, the second that ball comes out of the pitcher's hand, we can get a secondary. At Peewee, the second we know that that pitcher is making their move home, we can start to get our secondary. So encourage your kids to get a secondary. We'll talk a little bit about what a secondary is and some drill work that you can do to practice that.